Millipedes aren't as scary. They have lots more legs. They're kind of round and fluffy. Where centipedes are kind of flat, and they're not harmful to humans at all. Matter of fact, they're kind of wimps. When they feel threatened, they like curl up to try to hide, to defend themselves. Centipedes don't hide. They come after. They're aggressive. Yes, sir.
When I was snorkeling, I went to the bottom and I saw like a centipede.
Oh, really? Down at the bottom? Well, they don't live in the bottom. I wonder what that was.
It wasn't the ocean.
Oh, it wasn't the ocean.
It was a lake.
Right. Was it under a log or something like that?
Just under a rock.
We're going to read today that they get to about 30 centimeters long, which, let's get a good look. It doesn't sound that long to me. Because, like this right there, 30 centimeters. That's not at the lake. Did I tell you about that centipede I saw? That thing was on my kitchen floor.
Ooh.
And it was way bigger than 30 centimeters. And it was way fatter. I'm beginning to wonder, maybe it was a millipede, and I thought it was a centipede. But I'll show you a picture before we leave of a centipede that is so big that it kind of curls around me. Anyway, neither one of them are venomous to people. Like, they're not deadly. They're not fatal to humans. But centipedes, if you get bitten, it does hurt. But like a bee sting. I mean, you don't have to like fear bees. You just don't want to be stung by them. You don't have to fear centipedes. You just don't want to be bitten by them, right? Yes, sir.
So at science camp, we were like doing this activity where we had to like go out and find different bugs in this area. And we like dug a little bit and we found like 10 millipedes, just like all like.
There were millipedes?
Mm-hmm.
We found the yellow
We found them
jacket.
in the shower.
You know you got me.
That makes
Found a
sense.
spider.
Millipedes were in the showers?
I don't know which one it was.
Y'all said it, the principal said it was a centipede in the shower.
That's what I would think, because millipedes burrow. Like, they dig down, and centipedes don't. They live under logs, but they don't like burrow in the ground like millipedes do. Okay, let's read this scripture. Remember, we talked the other day about when the Israelites came out of Egypt, they were learning who God was. And in order to learn who God was, they had to learn like what was the right kind of thing to do, what was the wrong kind of thing to do. And so in the Old Testament, the laws are like super detailed. Like, I don't know if you've ever read Deuteronomy or Leviticus, but the laws are so detailed that it is super hard to just sit there and read it. If you ever try to read your Bible through in a year, it's just something that it's good to do, but those little details in the laws, they're really hard to just sit there and read. But there's benefit in it. Today, we're going to read about those foods that are considered kosher, good foods, that the Jewish people could eat, and then those that weren't so kosher that God said, do not eat. What we read today has to do with whether or not they could eat. Yep, and there were some insects that they could not eat, right? What were some of the ones they could eat? About 4 of them. Cricket. What else, Jason? Locust. And another one, Jason? It would call it, in my version, it called it a bald locust, but somebody else read it and it was like
or something?
But insects don't have 4 legs, do they? They have how many legs?
2.
4
6.
4 pairs. No, we have.
No, those are spiders. Those are arachnids.
5.
No, an insect.
3 pairs.
6 legs, 3 pair. But these ground legs for 4. They were for jumping, and they crawled on all 4s in front. Then God said, "Oh, you can." Now let 5 verses to read. So we'll come probably around to Jilly. All right. Go for it.
Every creature that moves along the ground is to be regarded as unclean. It is not to be eaten.
Whatever crawls on its belly and whatever walks on all fours, whatever has many feet, in respect to every swarming thing that swarms on the earth, you shall not eat them, for they are
Detestable.
Yeah.
Detestable, okay?
Disgusting.
Pretty much.
Next.
Do not defile yourselves by any of the creatures. Do not make yourselves unclean by means of them, or be made unclean by them.
Ooh. So if you did eat these, you would be what?
Unclean.
Unclean, which meant you could not come into the tabernacle and people weren't supposed to be around you. So you're kind of like an outcast if you're unclean. So don't eat them, right? Okay, keep going.
I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I am holy. Do not make yourselves unclean by any creature that moves along the ground.
Okay.
I am the Lord who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. Therefore, be holy, because I am holy.
Okay. So where had they just come from? Egypt. They had just come from Egypt. And so how long had they been in Egypt?
A long time.
Like how long?
400 years?
Like over 400 years they had lived in Egypt. So they had learned the ways of the Egyptians. And the Egyptians were not God-fearing people. I mean, they feared a bunch of gods, but they weren't real gods. And so they made up whatever rules they wanted to go by, whenever they wanted to, they made it up. And so who knows, they might have been eating centipedes, gross, millipedes, gross, all other kinds of things they'd been up to in Egypt. But when God brought them out and they crossed the Red Sea and he was about to take them into the promised land. They didn't make it. Not then. But he was about to, they had to learn who he was. And one of the things that he did was he said, these are good foods, these are not. Matter of fact, these are the clean foods. You can eat these. These are unclean foods. Don't eat these. If you eat them, then you will become unclean. Okay? So, in your journal, take a look back at those few verses. Because it never said centipede. It never said millipede. Why can you look at that and know that they should not eat centipedes or millipedes? Write down the key places that assure you centipedes and millipedes weren't for food. I'm going to read it while you're thinking, and while you're looking, I'll read it from my version. Okay? You can write me in your journal because there's more than one spot. It's the first today.
That's the 31st.
31st.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So here we go. So every swarming thing that swarms on the ground is detestable. It shall not be eaten. Whatever goes on its belly, whatever goes on all fours, or whatever has many feet, any swarming thing that swarms on the ground you shall not eat, for they are detestable. You shall not make yourselves detestable with any swarming thing that swarms, nor shall you defile yourselves with them and become unclean through them. For I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves, therefore, and be holy, for I am holy. You shall not defile yourself with any swarming thing that crawls on the ground. For I am the Lord who brought you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. You shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. So, how do you know they shouldn't be eaten in like these centipedes and millipedes?
They crawl on the ground with many legs.
Yeah, they crawl on the ground. Their bellies are on the ground, right? And they have many legs, so they're detestable to the Israelites. Now, are they detestable? Like if you met somebody that was eating them today, would that be sin? No, because the Old Testament was complete when Christ came. So New Testament has a very different feel to it. It's the same God, but with a big message, right? A new message. Okay, so we know they weren't supposed to eat them, but why would they obey God? Why would they obey these words? I mean, why? What did he say? Like, why should they respect?
God's holy.
Because God is holy. And what had he just done?
Brought them out of Egypt.
Brought them out of Egypt, out of slavery. So, all good things come from this God. So if he says, that's not good, stay away from it, is he doing it to be mean? Is he doing it so you don't get to have any fun? Or so they didn't get to have any fun? What's it for? Think, just use your brain. Why would he say, don't eat this stuff?
For your safety.
For your safety. For your good. Okay? Alright, let's close our Bibles and our journals. Zach, I don't think you prayed in a long time. Or have you? Would you mind praying today?
Sure.
I'm just having some trouble over here.
Come on, George.
Alright.
God, in this day of the day you've given us, please let us not get any tallies for the rest of the week and just learn good stuff in science and get good grades and get all A's. In Jesus' name.
Wow, I hope that all happens. I hope that all happens. God on your side. Okay, I need you to go ahead and pull out your books. We're going to read about centipedes and millipedes. I'm going to get rid of this now. And we're going to do up and bump today. Up and bump. So, do I see backpacks behind you on your chairs? Don't let that happen. That is tally material in this class. 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and take one, pass it down. 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, take one, pass it down. Okay, let me just do it Everybody the same. Okay, on the top, we are going to title this page Centipedes and Millipedes. Look on page 180 and you'll see the spelling. Open to page 180 and the title of this section is just that. Centipedes and Millipedes. Okay. So remember, when we up and bump clockwise, okay? So these guys, clockwise, you'll be going this way, right? And these guys, you'll be going around this way.
We're just staying on our individual table.
Yeah, you're staying at your individual table to do the up and bump, but you are going to leave your book and your paper because you are going to help each other out, okay? Go ahead and number from 1 to 10, skipping lines. There might be more than that, but we're going to start with 10. Skipping lines. Skipping lines to give plenty of room. And so what is the only thing that travels with you? Your pencil's the only thing that travels with you. Okay, so let's read about centipedes and millipedes. Before we start, look at your vocabulary box. Centipede, Preston, read the definition of a centipede.
A flat-bodied arthropod with one pair of legs on each body segment.
Okay, so it's flat-bodied and it has how many pairs of legs on a body segment? Just one, okay. Now millipede, Jason, would you read the definition of a millipede?
A round-bodied arthropod with 2 pairs of legs on each body segment.
Okay, so, why does a millipede have more legs than a centipede then?
Two pair on each.
No, look, it has it right there in the definition of
round
millipede.
bodies?
No, not because they're round body, but look at that. When they're talking about
pairs
legs,
on each body segment.
which does?
There's 2 pairs on each body segment.
For a millipede. Pictures before we get started, the big juicy picture, that big fat one on page 181 is a millipede. You drop
It's like a
something.
worm.
Yeah, see how it's got a round body to it?
Legs.
Now look on page 180 at that centipede that looks like it's yellow and purplish.
Oh, that brings back memories.
That one's like a
And look at its body. Look how it's flatter
Looks like little
kind of body. Are you
Looks like a
looking at them?
worm.
So which one has a roundish body? Millipede. And which one has the flatter body?
The bee centipede.
Okay, let's read it. All right, so here we go. So the name Myriapod means many-footed. The 2 major kinds of myriapods are centipedes and millipedes. Centipedes are flat-bodied arthropods with 1 pair of legs on each body segment. And millipedes are round-bodied arthropods with 2 pair of legs on each body segment. Both of these myriapods have many feet. Centipede means 100 feet. And millipede means 1,000 feet. But they do not actually have that many feet. You do not have to count their legs to tell which is which. You just look at how many pairs of legs they have per body segment. Number one. Question is, what does myriapod mean? And Jug, what does it mean?
Many-footed.
Many-footed, up and bump.
Which way?
Up it's clockwise. Let's go. All right, your second question comes from the same paragraph. Okay. Describe a centipede. This is number 2. Describe a centipede. Okay, Owen, help us out on that one.
Flat-bodied arthropods with 1 pair of legs on each body segment.
Perfect. Okay, everybody should have that same up and bump. Okay, couple more questions on this one. So what does centipede mean? What does centipede mean? And Celine, what does it mean? 100 feet. Duh, wait, hold on. Does a centipede actually have 100 feet?
No.
Nope. Okay, up and bump. And last question. What does millipede mean? And then describe a millipede. Same question. Describe a millipede.
For both on 4.
On the same one. Number 4. Pretty awesome. Okay, Zane, what does millipede mean?
1,000 feet.
Does a millipede actually have that many feet?
No.
No. Okay.
Work.
So Curtis, describe a millipede.
A millipede is a round-bodied arthropod with 2 feet each body section.
Perfect. Okay, up and bump, then we're going to read the next paragraph. Okay, so here we go. So scientists have identified several thousand species of centipedes. The largest centipede grows 30 centimeters long, which we looked at that. Does that seem long to you? For a little tiny bug, I guess, it would be kind of long if it was skinny. Not very long if it's fat, right? The one I saw was fat. Here we go. All right, let's see. Depending on the species, centipedes actually have between 30 and 342 legs. The most common centipedes have 30 legs, which is how many pair? 15 pair, that they use to move rapidly. Centipedes have a long pair of antennae on their heads, and they have mandibles for chewing. Remember what a mandible is? Like
Grinding.
Yeah, they grind. They're like teeth, really, and they grind the food. And all arthropods that we've talked about have mentioned mandibles. When we dissect our grasshoppers this Friday, you're going to be pulling mandibles away from its mouth parts, and you can feel that they're a lot harder than all the other mouth parts. They're like teeth. Mandibles really won't squish very easily. They're hard. They're like teeth. But, okay, here we go. All right, so centipedes do have this long pair of antennae on their heads. They have mandibles for chewing. On the first segment behind their heads, centipedes have a pair of poisonous, pinching claws. Centipedes rarely pinch people, however. Interesting. Next question. So, what can you find on the first segment behind a centipede's head? And that'll be what, Dylan?
Poisonous pinchers.
Poisonous pinching
I
claws.
didn't say it like that.
Up and bump, up and bump.
Pinchers.
Okay, next question. So, how does a centipede chew? Like, what does it use to chew? What mouth parts does a centipede use to chew? That one's easy. It's a what?
Mandibles.
It's not just one, but it's two. Right?
Mandibles.
Mandibles. Okay, up and bump. We're going to read the next one.
Nom nom nom.
Okay. So, most centipedes live in the tropics. What are the tropics?
Like
Brazil.
South America.
Parts of Brazil. But what'd you say? South America has tropics, but do you know what tropic? Yeah, it would be like Hawaii. There's palm trees. There's ocean, water nearby. There's lots and lots of different types and varieties of birds, fish. So most centipedes live in the tropics. But there are quite a few species that live in North America, Europe, and Asia as well. Centipedes generally live beneath rocks or logs. They are nocturnal, coming out at night to hunt earthworms and insects, which they kill with their poisonous claws. Some tropical species are even large enough to kill lizards and mice. Crazy. Most centipedes live outdoors, but the house centipede, which can grow to 7.5 centimeters long, sometimes lives in basements and bathrooms. Uh-oh, where was Celine? That's what it was, huh? At night, It hunts household insects such as cockroaches.
Bites your little sister.
All right, guys. So, question. What numbers?
Come on,
Skip
Ethan.
through. Okay. Question. Most centipedes live. Go ahead and write your answer. And where do most of them live?
In the tropics.
In the tropics, up above. Lost. Up above. Okay. When do centipedes like to hunt? When do they like to hunt? Write your answer down and
What do they like
Save
to
it.
win?
when. And when do they like to hunt? At night. So we call them what?
Nocturnal.
Nocturnal. Up in both. Okay. All right. Now this one, you're just going to have to draw on what you already know. And Hunter, did I say draw? Ouch. Not that kind of draw. Draw. Pull out. Pull out what you know. Okay? So, is a centipede an herbivore or a carnivore?
It's a carnivore.
I don't think so. I think there's carnivores. We could find out though.
Yeah, I do too.
They've been studied. Okay, up and bump. We'll talk about what they eat when we're going to go over some cool facts.
That was also fertile.
Okay. All right, next paragraph. So scientists have also identified several thousand species of millipedes, most of which were found
In the tropics.
in the tropics. However, some species are found in North America and Europe. Who got left out with the millipedes? There were some Asia got left out there. The Elapme platypus has an amazing 750 legs. Even though they have so many legs, millipedes travel slowly, moving in a wave-like motion. Okay, let's keep reading. Millipedes spend most of their time beneath rocks and rotten logs, avoiding bright light. Unlike centipedes, which kill their prey, millipedes are scavengers, so they don't go hunting for it. They eat dead animal and plant materials. When they're threatened by predators, some millipedes roll up into a tight ball to protect themselves. Others give off a bad smell with their stink glands to chase predators away. Okay, so with millipedes, what do they eat? Question 10. What do millipedes eat? And so, Drew, what do they eat?
Dead animals and plant material.
Dead plant and animal material. So it's not just dead animals. It's actually, we're going to read this word in a minute, animal poop. They'll even eat animal poop. So, here we go. Up and bump. Let's do one more question. This will be your bonus on this thing.
Oh, yes.
Okay, bonus. How does a millipede defend itself when threatened?
A millipede?
How does it defend itself when threatened? While you're doing that. And so how does a millipede defend itself when it's threatened, Abigail? Oh, it's there. We read it. In those paragraphs. So, stink glands, it gives off a bad smell. What else does it do? Do somebody who has... Okay. So, between a a millipede, guys. Raise your hand if you find the millipede to be more interesting. Zip. Oh, we got one. Okay. So raise your hand if you find the centipede to be more interesting.
Yay!
Okay. So millipedes are kind of just they serve their purpose because they clean up a lot of the material from dead plants and animals. But if I were going to do a report or some research, I'm really more interested in this centipede. This centipede is, I don't know, it looks kind of mean to me. And it does some really interesting things. So we're going to flip your paper to the back. And we're going to read some other interesting facts about centipedes. What I want you to do is I want you to number, let's do 10 again. 1 to 10. And up at the top I want you to put interesting CF, or centipede facts. And I bet y'all can see if we turn the lights off. So, Jilly, would you get our lights right? Oh, never mind, Dylan was up, ready to look. All right, so here we go. Let's read about these centipedes. So centipedes are fast-moving, they're venomous, they're predatory, and they are terrestrial arthropods that have long bodies and many jointed legs. Centipedes are found primarily in tropical climates. However, they're also widely distributed in temperate zones, like ours. Despite their name centipede, which means 100 legs, all centipedes do not have 100 legs. Centipedes are invertebrates, meaning without a backbone or spinal column. Anything that's interesting to you, that's what you're writing down on your 10 facts. So centipedes have a hard exoskeleton. Why does that up?
Is that?
Yeah, insects.
Arthropod.
Arthropods. So all of these arthropods have a hard exoskeleton with only one pair of walking legs per segment. The head of a centipede has a pair of antennae, jaw-like mandibles, and other mouth parts. The most anterior trunk segment of the centipede has a pair of venomous claws. Anterior means close to the head. So the closest segment to the head, which is what we read in our book. And they're called maxillipeds that are used both for defense and for capturing and paralyzing their prey. The bite of a smaller centipede in temperate areas may be similar to a bee sting, but the bite of a larger tropical species is excruciatingly painful, leaving 2 black puncture wounds as much as a centimeter apart. Oof. I don't want to meet up with this one. Yes, sir.
Did you hear about that little kid in Brazil who got bit by a really big centipede? He died.
He must have been allergic. I bet he was allergic to the venom.
Or got bit in a vital spot.
Or what?
Or got bit in a vital spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
That was pretty.
It was like 2 or 3. He was like 2 or 3.
What happens if you do get bit by one?
It just hurts really
Does the limb
bad.
like fall off?
No. But we can look up that up here in a minute and see.
Puncture wound. Of course, that's what we're doing.
Okay, guys, here we go. So, a common centipede is the house centipede, which is about 5 centimeters or 2 inches long, and it has 15 pairs of legs. Some centipedes glow in the dark. How weird is that? About 20 families and 3,000 species of centipedes have been discovered worldwide. Centipedes' colors vary from pale yellow to deep brown. Their bodies are always dorso-ventrally flattened. The dorsal side is the top and the ventral side is the bottom, so they're just saying that they're flat. So the dorsal side and the ventral side are close together. Although, like all arthropods, centipedes are covered with a tough outer coat. However, they do not have a waterproof layer and stay in moist areas where there is no danger of drying up. So remember how we read that the exoskeleton can keep them from losing body fluids? But evidently that's a problem for centipedes. So they stay in a moist area. Okay, here we go. So their habitat. They live in the soil and leaf litter, while those that hunt freely on the ground are strictly nocturnal and spend the day hiding under logs and stones where they keep moist. They live on land in moist microhabitats under rocks and logs, leaf debris, and occasionally in burrows. Centipede predators. Centipedes come under attack from various other animals, such as birds, toads, and shrews, as well as humans, if they are accidentally trodden on. Some people also eat centipedes. Okay, fierce centipedes. There are some rather fierce centipedes living on the planet, such as the giant red-headed centipede. They are fast-moving and very aggressive. They are about 6 inches long, but some can be 8 inches long. They can be found in the rocky woodlands in Arkansas and other parts of America. Notice it says, fortunately not in the United Kingdom.
Lucky for them.
So the author is living in the United Kingdom. Unfortunately, these aggressive centipedes can be rather dangerous. It was once witnessed in the 1920s, an officer, we're fixing to find out some of those details, an officer being injected by a centipede with poisonous venom from one of those red-headed centipedes and actually dying after developing a what?
An infection.
So it wasn't the venom, it was the what that killed him, the infection. It's hard to believe that these little crawly things that resemble the innocent caterpillar can bite. I don't find that they resemble the caterpillar that close.
Oh, no.
It is very rare to be bitten by centipedes, and like most animals, they will only bite in self-defense. However, if you are bitten by a centipede, the following procedure might help. Place some ice wrapped in a small towel or other suitable cloth on the site of the bite for 10 minutes, and then take it off for 10 minutes. Repeat the process. If the patient has circulatory problems, decrease the time to prevent possible damage to the skin. So let's see what they eat. Centipedes are carnivores. They're prey. The venom comes from their bite can be painful to a human, but not lethal. Centipedes eat insects, earthworms, spiders, slugs, and other small animals. Found in Central America. Okay, we're going to stop right there. Have you got 10 interesting facts? Okay, turn our lights on right quick. Look at the light. Oh, I know. Okay, I need you to make sure your name and class is on that paper, and let's turn those in our baskets. Close your books, and we're going to grab one more piece of paper right quick. Grab one more piece. Yes. After you turn that in and clear your desk off your door. So, today, right? A little bit? Okay. So what we're going to do
What's the rest?
is we turn this off.
It's in those bags.
That's pretty good.
Okay. So a bee is a type of insect. Okay, so we're moving away from the myriapods, the centipedes and millipedes. We're going to be thinking about insects. On that paper, I want you to go ahead and get your name and date. And you might have started one the other day, but we're starting fresh today. So on the top, I want you to write City of Bees. Okay.
City of Bees.
City of Bees.
Or for Coach Costa.
Because they live in a community. All right, now I'm going to bring you another paper here. We're going to talk about the life cycle of insects before we get into the City of Bees.
What do we number it to?
Do what, babe?
What do we number it to?
Let's just start with 8. Start with 8. Okay. There we go. So everybody's got an arthropod sheet. Okay. Okay. So let's read and fill in the blanks talking about the life cycle of arthropods. Okay. So let's go with Grady. Can you start us out and read the first sentence? Then we're going to shoelace back and forth, and we'll fill in the blanks as we go.
What page are we on?
We're on the arthropods page that I just handed out.
You want me to read it?
Start with the first sentence, and then we're going to shoelace across the room, and somebody else will catch the next one.
Is yours on this page with the blanks?
Yeah. George.
Insects began life as tiny, hard-shelled, fertilized eggs. After they hatch,
No, you're one sentence, and then you go.
After they hatch, insects begin a process of
Metamorphosis. Just sound it out. Metamorphosis.
that eventually produces an adult insect.
Okay.
each insect usually undergoes either
Complete.
complete
You're right. Let's start with complete. Complete.
metamorphosis or incomplete metamorphosis.
Perfect. Okay. So they'll either undergo complete metamorphosis or they'll undergo incomplete metamorphosis. Okay. Okay? Exactly. Now you're to that next box down to the left.
Complete metamorphosis has 4 different stages.
Y'all know the stages?
Eggs, larvae, pupa, no.
It's right there. Perfect. Okay, so the first stage for complete metamorphosis would be the egg. Then you would have the larva, which is kind of wormy looking. That's incomplete. Right, so we're just talking about complete right now. Okay, so we've got the egg, we've got the larva. The pupa is when there's a casing around it of some sort, and then it comes out as a what? An adult. Okay, so next sentence. Dylan, you're next.
Alright. Eggs hatch into
Eggs
larva.
Larva, perfect.
Wait, shouldn't George read next? Since he
He
was
just read. No, don't worry about him. You just keep rolling.
Oh, keep
Okay, larvae are specialized. That's our next one, Celine.
Larvae are specialized for blank and blank.
Eating. So that's one of the big things they do. And growing. So they're eating and growing. And Curtis.
The larva enters the next stage of the process and becomes an adult.
Nope, not yet. A pupa. Sorry. And Jilly.
As a pupa, the insect is enclosed in a protective covering.
Major changes in blank are taking place in this stage.
Body structure is what you need there. So there are some major changes in body structure that are taking place in this stage. You finish?
As the pupa becomes an adult insect.
So inside that casing, that's where all these changes are happening, right? What's one insect that everybody knows about that makes changes inside?
Caterpillar.
Butterflies. No, insects.
Cockroach.
There's a difference in insects and arachnids. And so butterflies, flies, and ants all undergo complete metamorphosis. Okay, go to the next box. Where it says gradual metamorphosis, mark out gradual and write incomplete. Write incomplete instead. And do it for the first sentence as well. Instead of gradual, mark that out and write incomplete again. And let's see, is it Abigail's turn? Okay.
Incomplete metamorphosis has no distinct blank stage.
Larval with an L. Larval. Happens to the best of us. So that blank is larval. Instead of the larva and the pupa stage, an egg, that's you, right, Drew?
Yes. An egg hatches into a stage called
That's where it was, right there, nymph. Nymph. A nymph normally, why am I doing that? Whose turn is it? It's your turn. There you go.
A nymph normally looks like the adult insect, but without the
Wings. They don't have wings.
New York mile per hour.
New York mile per hour.
It's 2 miles
Okay.
nymph.
Missed it. Okay, that was sharp. Okay, so I believe we're to Zane.
A nymph may blank several times before becoming an adult.
It's gonna molt. Yeah, same deal. Molt. Several times before it becomes an adult, but it looks like an adult the whole time. It just doesn't have what? Wings. When it grows its wings, then it is a what? An adult. Okay, some examples, and I'm just going to pop them in for you. A grasshopper goes through incomplete metamorphosis. You're right. They're right there beside it, huh? Termites is another one. These nasty things, cockroaches, gross. And dragonflies. So those are the kind of insects. And there's a picture of a dragonfly down at the bottom of the paper.
It's called poison.
You're what?
I'm going to start running.
R-O-A-C-H-E-S. Okay, guys, now open your books one more time and go to page 189. Page 189. So you can see a better picture of complete metamorphosis on page 189 and compare it to incomplete metamorphosis on the same page. So all insects start as what? Eggs. So everybody's got an egg stage, and all of them end up as an adult. It's these middle stages that are different. In an incomplete metamorphosis, how many stages are there? 3. Complete. 4. And then incomplete metamorphosis, there are 3. But the nymph, sometimes you see pictures. Let me see if there's one up there. No. Sometimes you see pictures where they show the nymph getting bigger. It's growing, and they'll say, like, this is the first stage of nymph. Then it'll say there's a second nymph stage and a third nymph stage. But basically, it's a nymph until it gets its what? Wings, and then it's an
There's a
adult.
tadpole and a growing tadpole.
Okay. Yeah, but that is different than what we're talking about.
They grow
legs here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so close your books. Your complete and incomplete metamorphosis pages, Hunter. Put that in your green floppy binder.
I like beans, but I hate grass.
Did anybody get to present your posters? Girls, didn't some of y'all do that or not? Did that? Okay, so there's a couple of them that did not. You know what? We're gonna hang on. We're gonna go ahead and go to this B video. There's some cool stuff in it. Okay. So, City of the Bees, made back in the 50s, right? It's got kind of an old sound. Did y'all get to the part where the bee was like flying past the...
It's like really.
Oh, yeah, they were really
That was the most It was better than something.
No, we got past that.
Well, it was just sitting there.
Yeah, we're at the part where they started to fight.
With the queen
Oh, yeah.
No, not the queens, the bodyguards, wasn't it?
No, the queens were fighting.
Oh, the queens.
It's like
The bodyguards.
No, the queens
We got past
they didn't have
No, we didn't.
Good.
We got past the quiz.
Okay, well then tell me what's next. The queen dies.
They're like half the body.
Makes a weird. Maybe they said yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, guys, so what we're going to do, Dylan. So what we're going to do is, until we get to the part where the queens are fighting, don't worry about writing anything down. Just listen, right? So I'm going to, at that point, I'm going to turn our lights back on, okay? But I want you to just watch and see what you can learn about these bees until we get to that part.
The honeybee has been called the most important insect in the world. Because of its importance and unique way of life, the bee has been studied more carefully than perhaps any creature except man himself.
Miss Schrader.
The results of these studies have been published in more than 30,000 books and articles. Here at the Moody Institute of Science, we have studied the bee for more than 10 years. Of course, in that time, we have barely scratched the surface. But the study has given us a profound appreciation of this remarkable insect. The bee is a social creature, and thus faces many of the problems of human society, such as keeping cities clean. When thousands of creatures live closely together, they either maintain rigid standards of sanitation or run the risk of disease and epidemic. In the hive, sanitation squads are constantly at work. Foreign material is quickly disposed of. Each one of the thousands of cells is thoroughly cleaned and even varnished after every use. The result of this constant vigil is a hive which is amazingly clean. And not only is it clean, the hive is air conditioned as well.
This is so cool.
Daily and seasonal temperature fluctuations create a serious life and death problem. The larvae will die if the temperature in the brood area falls below 90 degrees or exceeds 97 degrees.
Okay, so the larvae have to have it between what two temps?
91 and 97.
Yeah, between 90 and 97. So they just mentioned that these bees actually air condition. In other words, the condition of the air they control. Okay? Which is what we do. And that's kind of cool because we had to learn about that. Bees know it how?
Instinct.
By instinct.
Sensing organs on a bee's antennae can detect a temperature change of a Fahrenheit. A high metabolic rate quickly converts this honey into heat. And the collective heat of thousands of bodies provides a blanket of warm air.
Okay, so how do they keep the hive warm?
They
vacuum
make
it
a
up.
blanket.
Ooh, I sure am. So how do they keep it warm?
They drink honey and they all come together.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of heat there. Okay, so here we go.
And the collective heat of thousands of bodies provides a blanket of warm air. When the temperature soars, as it does in the summertime, water is collected and distributed throughout the hive. Vigorous fanning of the wings produces currents of air which evaporate the water, causing the temperature to go down. Notice.
Okay, did you catch that? What do they bring in if it's too hot?
Water.
Water, and then when they fan their wings, what happens, Dylan?
When they start flapping their wings, it evaporates.
Yeah, so that when it's evaporating, everything's staying cool. Matter of fact, our church building is really cool.
Out at the other.
See that?
See these small
There is a striking similarity between this procedure and that which exists between hives of bees. Guard bees constantly patrol the entrance. Each hive has a distinctive odor, and just a swipe with the antennae tells the guard whether the bee trying to gain entrance is a citizen or an alien. Aliens are forcibly ejected.
Get out.
Did y'all hear how they can tell what an enemy is, though?
No.
By smelling.
They rub
By
their
smelling
antennas.
Yeah, their antennas sense the smell. Boys, look this direction. Okay, there is too much chatter in here. When there's that much chatter, then you're not hearing what the video's saying, and it doesn't stop giving information. So you've got to be listening the whole time. Here we go.
The wasp made a deliberate effort to gain entrance to the hive, to rob the hive of honey. The caterpillar just happened along, but it makes no difference. The penalty for intrusion is the same. A saucer of sugar water will...
Okay, I remember Judd laughing at this. Did you know that a saucer is a real thing?
A saucer.
So what's that?
They're calling it a saucer because it's not the actual plate size. The saucer is what goes under
It's a
like
saucer.
Did you know you
Aliens
have a
right in it.
sartorius muscle in your gut?
I don't know that.
Jacob Sartorius.
Here we go. Eyes back.
An interesting observation of the efficiency of the bee society. Place the saucer in a quiet spot in the backyard. It may go unnoticed for hours or even days. But once a scout bee has located it, in a matter of minutes, other bees appear. How were so many of them able to find the saucer so quickly? Did the scout bee...
Okay, you see how it looks like they're sticking out a tongue?
Uh-huh.
That's called a proboscis. It's not really the tongue, and it's like a straw. And that's how they drink nectar and this water, sugar water. Do what? Oh, yeah. They do clean it, yeah.
And lead them back? No. Fantastic as it seems, the scout bee actually told the other bees where the food was located. The world owes much of its knowledge of how bees communicate to the keen observation and perseverance of the brilliant Austrian scientist, Dr. Karl von Frisch.
Hey, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If you guys can keep your attention like you are right now, then I'm not going to stop and make you write down any details. Okay? Because then I'll know you're getting it. So here we go.
Dr. von Frisch made thousands of observations over a period of more than 25 years, checking first one theory and then another, until at last he discovered the language of the bees.
This is amazing.
For one thing, the scout reveals the kind of nectar she has found simply by passing out minute samples. More information is conveyed through a complex figure-8 dance. The waggle is the important part of the dance. The vigor with which the abdomen is moved from side to side indicates the sugar content of the food. The food may be just average, or it may be something to really get excited about.
So the more the waggle, the more what? The more sugar in the nectar. Cool.
When a scout bee dances straight up on the honeycomb, she is telling the other bees they can find food by flying directly toward the sun. If food can be found by flying away from the sun, she dances straight down.
Notice that if she's showing them straight down, she only waggles when she's going down, and then she'll like turn around, and she won't waggle again until she comes straight down. So that's how she's telling them you're going to have to fly away from the sun to find this. This is crazy. This is like stuff people go to school to learn. But this is instinct.
By varying the angle of the dance, a scout can indicate a food source in any direction. 90 degrees to the right of the sun. 40 degrees to the left of the sun. But how is a bee able to follow bearings with respect to the sun? This would imply the bee has some kind of compass, and so she has. An amazing polarized light compass built into her compound eye.
So what's in their eye?
Their compass.
Nuts. That's nuts.
Is to find the food, she must know not only direction, but distance as well. Observe again the center portion of the dance. The length of time spent on the waggle and the number of pulses of sound emitted in each buzz are a measure of the distance to the food source.
Okay, so far, what has she shown?
The sugar content and where it is.
Sugar content and what direction it's flying.
And how far it is.
How far it is by not how many waggles, but the pulses that she sends out.
Yeah.
And that's important, because if they're not prepared for the distance, then they'll die.
This scout is telling the others of food 3/10 of a mile away. This one indicates a food source at a distance of 1 7/10 miles. But more than simple distance is involved. A bee normally flies about 15 miles per hour.
My favorite part.
However, ground speed
It's my
will
favorite
vary according to the direction and velocity of the wind. The amount of effort required to reach the food must be communicated in order for such problems to be solved. To demonstrate that the bee language really works, we set out 3 feeders. The first near a stream. The second near a grove of trees. The third along a fence. The scout discovering feeder number 1 is marked with a dot. The scout discovering feeder number 2 is marked with a bar. And the scout discovering feeder number 3 with a cross. In a matter of minutes, the scout bees are back at the hive, busily sharing their discovery with the other bees. Now let's see how well the messages are received. The bees crowd around, sensing with their antennae the movements of the scout. These bees are marked with the...
Okay, so now what they're doing is they want to know that only the bees from that hive go to the saucer that bee discovered. So that's why they're marking all these other bees that have gotten that message.
As the scout bee they are attending, but with a different color. In a short while, the marked bees begin to arrive at the feeders, but only bees with dots visit feeder number 1. Only those with bars visit feeder number 2. And only crosses visit feeder number 3.
So what does that prove?
Imagine just finding a bee and it has a little cross on its back.
Stop, babe. So, Curtis, what were you saying?
That they actually do, like, I guess, talk to each other and they have a language.
Yeah, because if not, if all of those bees were just kind of randomly flying around, then there'd be a mixed marks on the bees at each place, right? Yeah. It's pretty interesting, pretty cool.
In each instance, the bees visit only the feeders they have been told about. So we see the dance of the bee is a briefing session, communicating to other bees specific and precise information as to the kind of food, its sugar content, and the direction and distance which must be flown to reach it. The extent to which the bees rely on the accuracy of the information is seen in the matter of fuel supply. One might suppose that bees leaving the hive would take along a full load of fuel, but such is not the case. Actual measurements of the stomach contents of the bees going to predetermined locations reveal they take only enough fuel to reach the flowers they are to work.
Okay, so if the scout bee came back and told them that the food, the nectar, was like 3/4 of a mile away, then they eat enough honey to get them where? 3/4 of a mile. So if they put the wrong bee in a hive and it told them it was 3/4 of a mile away, but it was really like 1.5 miles away, what would happen to all the bees? They wouldn't make it because they only eat enough to get where they're going.
To carry more would deplete the honey reserves of the hive and cut down on the payload to be brought back. This is serious business for a bee. If the fuel runs out before the new source of supply is reached, the bee will die. Occasionally, you see a bee struggling along the grass. Some strange turn of events caused her to run out of fuel. You can nudge her, or even give her an elevated position from which to take off, but she can't fly. There is not enough fuel to run those wing muscles. But feed her some sugar water or honey, and before long, off she flies. Bees actually stake their lives on the accuracy of the information they have been given, and the system really works. In 1 year, in the United States alone, 247 million pounds of honey were harvested. This was in addition to approximately twice that amount used by the bees themselves. This means that the bees sought out, sucked up, transported, and processed about 1,500,000,000 pounds of nectar. Converted into honey, this would fill 41 million cartons and make a stack nearly 8,000 miles high. The population of the bee city varies throughout the year. The 80,000 inhabitants will, within a few months, shrink to 15,000. Then, just as suddenly, build up again. This fluctuation is no accident. It is the result of a carefully regulated system of population control. the key to which is the queen bee. When a queen is needed, a group of workers called nurses select several very young larvae and feed them an abundant supply of royal jelly.
Okay, as they're talking about these nurses, I want you to notice who's really in charge of the hive.
The nurses.
Kind of seems that way.
One of these will become the queen. Thus, in a very literal sense, a queen is made, not born. The cells for these larvae are enlarged so as to accommodate the greater size. The newly developed queen announces her arrival even before she emerges. The piping sound is a challenge to any other queen to prepare for battle.
It's like a horn.
So several queens would be born at the same time. So it's not like a fight just between two queens. A bunch of queens have to fight until there's only one left. Why do you think, why would God cause, this to happen? Why would that be an instinct?
So the strongest queen bee.
There you go. Because the strongest one is the one that's going to lay the first egg.
Hunger Games.
Let's see what time it is.
Oh my god.
Okay, a couple more minutes. We're going to keep going.
This is much better.
Alright. You can gather your stuff as long, guys, as long as you're still watching. That's what's nice.
The queens engage in a death struggle until only one remains. And the remaining queen is a phenomenal egg producer, laying more than twice her weight in eggs in a single day. However, the queen has no control over the number of eggs she lays. This is determined for her. She is fed and cared for by the nurses. The more they feed her, the more she lays. By varying the amount of food she is fed, the nurses control the number of eggs laid and thus control the population. The eggs are laid one to the cell. After 3 days, the egg hatches. The larva never leaves the cell in which it is cradled, so all the food necessary for its development must be prepared and brought to it. This too is done by the nurse bees. During the next 6 days, the nurses will make thousands of visits to every cell. Think of it, thousands of visits to raise one bee.
Do you hear that? Between all of those nurses, each little larva gets 1,000 visits. Okay, here in a minute, did we get to the part where they talk about what happens to the queen bee when she quits laying her eggs?
No.
They kill her.
She gone.
That's right, she gone.
She gone.
Wait, why does it stop there?
She gone. No, the girl dies. She gone. When a boy dies, he gone. There.
Hey guys, just throw the papers away. I hate to do that, but I've got some clean ones.
I bet she gets assassinated by the nurses at home. She gone.
Whoa.
I gotta get to class.
See this sun over there? No, look at the meatball. Meatball. There's a giant meatball floating in space.
Where do you take it next from here?
To Susan
Okay.
Lafreniere. And then I left a message with Mary Jo that you might be having a test next week.
I am having a test over here.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at the board. I just heard you tell the kids a while ago.
Yes.
So it'll be Thursday or Friday.
Thursday.
So I do it because I had asked Meredith to help Mary Jo if she got too booked.
Okay.
So, and 9 times out of 10 they don't ever ask any questions. So,
Yeah, okay.
but they just
Good. It's
Just the security of doing it. Mm-hmm. Be with her the testimony.
Okay.
She's gonna come get you because do you know where the admission lab is down on the other end?
Yeah, I know where that is.
You do? Well, I told her to come get you because I didn't know if you would know where it was. But anyway, she'll help you. Who's in this chair? Okay. I push that back.